And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho. We're starting things out today looking at the sun in 193 angstroms to see some coronal holes around the equator as well as around the south solar polar region. Sunspot 2770 has degraded. It's now, I think it's an alpha class now. A little bit of activity rising in the southeast as well as a coronal mass ejection, which is taking its good old time. Part of the ejecta has already left the sun, and you can see some of that ejecta spewing out here from the LASCO C3 coronagraph, around where I put my arrow here. And you can also see the planet Mercury swinging around the sun. No, it's not a spaceship. So this coronal mass ejection is taking days here to propagate, and it's still an ongoing thing. Here's the view from stereo A, and you can see that ejecta leaving the corona, but also some ejecta not yet leaving the corona. Now that could collapse back down, but that usually will find its way blasting out into space. And so this is a rare occasion where I was days off for when the coronal mass ejection would kick off. Cheers! We enjoy being wrong when we do real science because it teaches us things. It teaches us things like to not be ossified in our beliefs and to get out in front of our screw-ups, admit them, move on, and be real scientists, not ossified idiots. So, I've made a custom movie here using the LASCO Soho movie theater, and this is the entire cycle 25 to date. Cycle 25 began on November 17th, 2019. And here's the entire time, mostly sunspot free, right at the beginning of cycle 25. So the cycle 24 has ended, and you can see those three significant active regions at the end of the video. I'll let it play through one more time. You can see the date stamps down there at the bottom left. And you can make these yourself. Just look up the Soho movie theater. You can make long views of the LASCO or whatever. And there you see those three spots at the end. Helio viewer, here are the fields, and again, sunspot 2770 has weakened. Here's a really cool fade. I think we've got the moon moving in between the SDO and the sun right now. And the North Pole coronal hole is looking extremely well defined here, and we're getting a little more definition out of the south one also. Quick side note. Christian Veladrich of France has taken a great photo of sunspot 2770. Here's the view from it on August 7th at 7:49 Universal Time. Great image there. You can see the penumbral lines. Looks almost like the clouds that we cover on the water vapor maps. You ever notice that? Here's the only custom Helio viewer movie we've made today. It's just the 1 day full view here. Again, we've got an active region rising down here in the south. Some more cycle 25 activity, no doubt. Exciting stuff. And I'll let that play through again before we move on to more stuff. The 10.7 centimeter radio flux still at 74 solar flux units. And there you can see we haven't had a smooth monthly value of 75 since October of 2017, I believe. So watching the radio flux move up along with the sunspot number. That's a good thing, folks. You don't want your solar minimum to be too minimal, as those are bad for civilization. The KP index is at 1. And we did see a B-class flare just before midnight, probably out of sunspot 2770. I don't even care to look it up. There's probably some kind of a bright spot there. No big deal, little solar flare in the B-class range. Proton flux remains flatline, no surprises there. We do see some more power outages here now. We've got nearly 500,000 in Iowa, over 500,000 in Illinois, and 116,000 in Indiana. And Missouri is in the state of Missouri with 36,812 reported power outages. I use poweroutage.us for that. And let's look at the real-time solar wind. We see some missing data here in between about 3:30 and 5 o'clock universal time. We see a very diffuse and very weak solar wind. Solar wind density currently at about 3, but having been as low as 0.3 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind density around 278. That's about as low as we ever see the solar wind velocity. 278 kilometers per second. Let's take a look at cosmic rays. Here's Apatity and Barentsburg's cosmic ray monitors. You can see Apatity here is slightly down on the past 30 days. Barentsburg slightly up on the past 30 days, so that's interesting. As perhaps solar cycles are not decided, perhaps cosmic ray flux is not decided by solar cycles. We're not going to talk about that in depth in this video, as we are itching to do some cosmology segments. It's going to happen soon. And also check out our lists on YouTube. It's youtube.com/smAsho/playlists. I think there are about 60 cosmology segments in there. Next, looking at the Athens neutron monitor, which is quite erratic here at a much farther south location, and fairly flat here because of this downtick between the 23rd and 28th. Otherwise, it would be up slightly over the past 30 days. But we can't ignore that data, making it sort of flat. Here's Mexico City, slightly down over the past 30 days in Mexico City as well. And lastly, Oulu, Finland, and DOMC, Antarctica. There's Oulu, and let me just take a quick aside here to check the health of the stream. And if you are viewing live on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/smAsho if you haven't checked it out, if you want to see the content when it comes out live. And we do enjoy watching the videos afterwards on YouTube live premieres with our audience. Next, here's Oulu, Finland, and you can see Oulu is slightly up over the past 30 days. Here's DOMC, Antarctica, up over the past 30 days as well. And DOMB, Antarctica, still not sending back data during the Antarctican winter. If you want to monitor it yourself, just look up links to cosmic ray data. You'll find this great site. Let's look at some X-ray transients. First, Sagittarius A star, the core of the Milky Way galaxy, the massive radio source located at the center of the Milky Way galaxy. And there you can see its X-ray flux is fairly normal here. You can see the baseline is 0.00, and it's pretty much right in that range there. Nothing to write home about there. Next, let's take a look at the Crab Pulsar, not the Carb Pulsar. That just causes a bunch of inflammation. Alright, so here's the Crab Pulsar, a very reliable X-ray source. And let's see, just over 0.2. This is in its normal operating range as well, the Crab Pulsar. And while we're over on that side of the galaxy, let's look at the Vela Pulsar as well. And that is also in a normal range here. Those two very consistent X-ray sources. Let's look at a highly inconsistent X-ray source, Cygnus X3, high mass X-ray binary, which is, let's see here, it's in a slightly quiescent state here. It still hasn't moved back into a high level of activity. And we implore you, if you're a radio astronomer, please study Cygnus X3 as it is in a quiescent state. We would like to see what this does in radio as this moves back into an active state, something that it always does. Now this is a super interesting object in that the high mass little friend, which orbits the massive Wolf-Rayet star, does so in a period of 4.8 hours, which makes it probably the most interesting object in the Milky Way galaxy, save for maybe Sagittarius A star, or perhaps the Sun, the Rosetta Stone of cosmology. If you want to look at the transients yourself, just check out the Neil Gorell Swift BAT X-ray Transient Monitor. That stands for Burst Alert Telescope, by the way. And a couple thousand objects are monitored by this Neil Gorell's Swift Observatory. Let's look at the magnetosphere movies. This is what happens when the solar wind density is as diffuse as it is. And you can see all that low density here shown in white. And there you can see some higher density solar wind coming in, filling in that puffed up, highly diffuse magnetosphere. So there's 4 hours of data on the density. And before we look at pressure, let me bring up a test pattern and say, hey, you, get out of my thing. Next, looking at the pressure, and talk about some weak pressure. Let's start that over. One of the weaker magnetohydrodynamic pressures that we've documented on the channel. We do show this data daily. If you want to know what was going on around this time of day last year at this time, go to our playlist, youtube.com/smAsho/playlists, and the daily space weather will be in there. Anyway, there's 4 hours of data, and you can see how weak the magnetosphere is as a result of that diffuse incoming solar wind. Next, going a little closer to home, here are the ground magnetic perturbations. During this geomagnetic excursion, while we have two North Poles, one over Siberia and one over northern Canada, the South Pole has crept into the southern Indian Ocean, nowhere near the geographic South Pole. There's your 4 hours of data on ground magnetic perturbations. Nothing too exciting going on there. Next, the ghost magnetometer. And don't be surprised to see this suddenly get spiky today as we see some openings around the south solar polar field region. I won't get super in-depth into it, but here's a line of sight field plot. This data is very old. Let's see if there's any new data. This data is nearly 6 hours old. It shows the B field, which is the interplanetary magnetic field, on this football blue-shaped potential field force lines there. And those are a result of the combination between the sun's two poloidal fields. It's really the interaction between this poloidal field and this poloidal field that makes the B field a thing. Here's the top view ecliptic plane field plot. And it's not very helpful right now. Again, the data's so old, it's 5 hours and 37 minutes old. So nothing to write home about there. And welcome to another episode of the Smash Lights. We're going to shorten this one up a little bit because we've got limited number of stories. Let's talk about our mission. You can read all about it if you want to go to smashomash.com/forum/mission. Let's talk about number 6. It's to assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomenon in order to optimize value and reduce risk and liability and save lives and resources and adapt, no matter what the adversity is. Whether it's government waste, fraud, and abuse, a coronal mass ejection, or a global pandemic, we're out here helping people to understand the relevant factors involved in said systems. Let's talk about inflation. It's a relevant factor in the U.S. monetary system, as we are expecting at least 10%, and with new stimulus coming out, more like 15% rate of inflation, which means that your $1 last year would have bought you, well, your 85 cents right now would have bought you $1 worth of goods last year. In other words, your dollar's now worth 85 cents. So, and by the way, people that don't understand inflation, like Paul Krugman, economic illiterate, and fan of Bernie Sanders, I believe, they are misdefining the term inflation as a continuing rise in the general price, usually attributed to an increase in volume of money. Oh, hey, Merriam-Webster's got it right. So it's actually always attributed to an increase in the volume of money, and the consumer price index is intentionally manipulated. It's well known that they intentionally manipulate the prices in there to make inflation look at the figures they want. So they can make inflation look higher by moving certain goods in and out of the basket of goods in the consumer price index. We won't get into it. Let's get into this dummy. Nobel Prize winning economist Paul Krugman has been in the news, stating that, oh, gold prices aren't at all-time highs because people are expecting inflation. Oh, it's because of bond yields falling, right? It's because the Fed's buying so many trillions of dollars, 4 trillion just in the past year, worth of bonds, that's why gold prices are going up. It has nothing to do with inflation, because massive bond purchasing programs purchased with printed money by the Federal Reserve have nothing to do with inflation. Paul Krugman, it's breaking down for you, isn't it there, bud? Wow. Paul Krugman, economic illiterate, cited here on Zero Hedge, saying gold's price rise has nothing to do with investors expecting soaring inflation. What an idiot. Go send Paul an email. I think he's probably got an email address at New York Times, as he regularly does columns to confuse and muddy the waters on economics. What a dummy. He thinks the government can just print money eternally and it'll be just fine. Paul Krugman. Shut up, Krugman. Krugman, shut up. By the way, this also exposes how pathetic the Nobel Society is. Now, some things cause real drops in prices. For instance, if we found a giant vein of gold someplace, that would cause gold prices to go down. If we discovered new ways to make food like, fermenting wood into protein, which is, by the way, a thing now that we covered like 2 weeks ago on the channel. Things like droughts and flooding and pests ruining harvests, those cause actual rises in prices, which has nothing to do with bond purchasing. So guess what? China is running into additional problems and facing a severe food shortage this year. Another article here on Zero Hedge about that if you'd like to go have yourself a read. There are differences between price changes and inflation. Inflation is when your dollars buy less stuff because there are too many dollars in the market. For instance, if you sold too many shirts, if you had too many shirts on the market for sale, the price in your shirts would drop in value. See what I'm saying? Let's talk about gold prices, which are finally lower than $2,000. They've just dropped $43. And they were over $2,000 when I did show prep, but there you go. Off its historic highs now, still flirting with $2,000. And markets are set to open up. We'll get to it in a minute. First, please return me to the page I was on, CNBC.com. Hey, thanks. Silver prices flirting with $30 an ounce at $28.11 per ounce. Here are the futures markets. The pre-market data showing Dow is set to open 200 points above the Unch line. S&P set to open 1775 up. NASDAQ expected to open plus 60.5. Belarus opposition leader Svetlana Tikhanovskaya has absconded. She's fled to Lithuania as she doesn't want to go to jail like her husband, following the, quote, election. The election selection, which, by the way, poses a real threat to Lukashenko. Nobody believes the results to the election. Oh, yes. I'm just scrolling the headlines here on Deutsche Welle. That's dw.com. Deutsche Welle, a great news source, which appears to be somewhat objective. We love it. Beirut's mayor has stepped down, by the way. And there's all kinds of strife going on in Belarus as a result of the elections. Witch hunts are still happening, by the way. That's still a real thing. And check this out. Germany's foreign minister wants sanctions. Foreign Minister Heiko Maas expressed strong doubts over the legitimacy of Lukashenko's election victory. So at least people are paying attention. I don't believe that he got 80% of the vote. What say you? Leave a comment. And seems to be the fakest election in Belarusian history. Belarus, the most Soviet of the former Soviet states. So perhaps this is a good sign for progress and for the elimination of dictators. He's been in charge for 26 years there. Deutsche Welle, and I don't know what I'm on here. I don't think I opened that page. By the way, thanks to our patrons, the real source of funding. Every little bit counts, folks. Thanks to our newest patrons. Expect to see some releases of things like audio tracks and ringtones if you are a gold level member, or a condensed matter version, a condensed matter tier member. So if you're sending us more than $9.99 or more per month, expect some media files in there. Patrons are the real support for the channel, as YouTube strives to pay us nothing. So here's a great example. Yesterday's video, which was our largest video in well over a week here, receiving over 100 views, has, guess what, limited ad suitability. So of course we've appealed that, and we've also put links below the video to Subscribestar and to other ways to support the channel. We are streaming live to Twitch. It's twitch.tv/smAsho. If you are on YouTube, please share the content over there, as we can't seem to get to 1,700 subscribers, and basically we have zero help. That's why we don't have any listed channels anymore. Anybody out there who'd like to do a collabo, hit me up. The email is smashomash@gmail.com. Also check out our playlists, as we do a lot more than the daily space weather. We're also on BitChute, bitchute.com/smashomash, thanks to our subscribers over there. Let's talk cycling. Have you been to theveloshop.net? That's theveloshop.net. Maybe if you want to look up bikes, are you in the market for a Road Machine 02 Ultegra, as I am? I'll need a 58. Anyway, you got a call for availability. Let's talk about our latest featured cyclist on smashomash.com/forum. Becky Quinn, owner of the shop. To her adoring fans, she's known as Quinny. I've never heard anybody say it, as I'm a fellow rider. And she is training juniors as we speak. Coach Becky is the owner of the Velo Shop and has won multiple national championships, finishing 4th in the World Championships twice. If you want to contact Becky, tell her I sent you. Dan Nigro, sent you to theveloshop.net. In fact, I have to give her a call, as I need a jersey and a skin suit. We've also got on smashomash.com/forum a section about movie recommendations. Go and leave your post a movie. If your description contains spoilers, tell us. Everybody wants more content to watch, so grease their wheels. Love Smash. President Trump was ushered out instantaneously while doing a briefing at the White House. And I don't know what just happened there, but that was a disaster. Never click on a link that you don't understand, folks. Anyway, Trump was whisked away last night.
It would be thought of very poorly. It's going to hurt our country.
Trump was whisked away last night, right in the middle of a speech. He offers no explanation. He just instantly leaves, as a Secret Service agent whispers something to him. It's because of a shooting. Oh, yes. And we won't show any footage of that, as I'd prefer to have today's video not demonetized. Let's talk about the scary, spooky COVID. Now, for those of you who followed us since January, it's not the COVID, folks. I just choked. For those of you who've watched us since January 23rd and read forums, because at smashomash.com/forum, there is a 31-page long section about COVID. And we started covering it on January 23rd by saying things like, is that scary and spooky? Not really. Gotcha. And yeah, it's a cheap Chinese plastic virus made in China with an incredibly low mortality rate that people are very, very scared and spooked about because they're stupid and they know nothing about infectious diseases. Mouthwash could reduce the risk of transmission. Here's an article on SciTech Daily. Who could have guessed that mouthwash, which is typically alcohol-based, which is known through hand sanitizer and all kinds of other media sensationalization, can kill the COVID virus? Oh my God. Personally, I don't even care about killing the COVID virus because it's irrelevant. It's about as novel as Governor Andrew Cuomo here. If you don't follow us on Twitter, check us out. I'm gonna do a bunch of posts today. And Tony Heller's over there also. And shout out to Christian Westbrook, yes. Drop me a line, dude. We're only 8 months behind when we're supposed to do our collaborative video. Anyway, yeah, Twitter. I'm going on it today. I'm going to tweet all day today. Let's talk about this great Electroverse article that I was turned on to by Twitter. Check out the ice mass balance. Check out the snow and ice balance at Greenland. Whoops! Oh my God, it's melting. It's just moved a solid standard deviation above the multi-decadal average. Yes, yes. Usually it's barely back into gaining mass, and now it's moved back to levels that it hadn't seen since the winter. So there you go. Oh my God, Greenland is melting so much that it's just added 4 gigatons in about 1 day. If you need to hit us up for a breaking news story, or if you just want to send me a text and say, screw you, smAsho, you can do so at country code 1, area code 610-936-9799. That's country code 1, area code 610-936-9799. Tell your friends, tell your foes, tell your science noobs and your science pros to hit me up on the smAsho VoIP line. It's all good. Also, don't forget to check out our affiliate links, which you can link to it from smAshomash.com. It's smAshomash.com/affiliate. And we've got our great Amazon links there. We've got a pulse oximeter, some amino acids, as well as methylsulfonylmethane, otherwise known as MSM almond flour, zinc, calcium, and magnesium, which we take before bed, shugu, and mashed potatoes. If you wanna stock up on your preps, it's available for Prime. It's only 0.13 cents per ounce or something like that. 0.13 cents per ounce. If you want the cheap stuff, buy yourself a bin of these using our link. It's all available at smAshomash.com/affiliate. And we are growing our organization. We've got links to two different Teespring storefronts here at smAshomash.com. And we're going to show you both storefronts today. Part of the reason why we shortened up the coverage. So first of all, we've got the original smAsho store, the Smash store actually. Again, it's linked at smAshomash.com or smAshomash.org, which will redirect you to smAshomash.com. So there's the affiliate link, there's the link to the forum, there's the link to the original store, which includes the shirt that I'm currently wearing. So here's the shirt I'm currently wearing. Smasher price my first pandemic. Anybody who wants one of those, order it up. It's $24.99 plus shipping, and if you order additional units, you'll get a little break on the shipping. We've also got leggings. We've got the I Survived the Global Pandemic So Far shirt featuring the Grim Reaper graphic, as well as the Mansa and Mensa shirt, Make America Not Suck Again, Make Earth Not Suck Again. It's up to you. Tell your friends, tell your foes. And at teespring.com/stores/smAsho store, also linked at smAshomash.com, perhaps pick up a shirt there, such as the 3C405 Eugene Bagashov edition, which comes in only white and 2 different pink colors, since Eugene doesn't like the graphic design work. If you want girly colored lettering on your 3C405 shirt, featuring massive radio galaxy Cygnus A, which by the way has transients, if you want to look it up, go to the Neil Gorell Swift-Bat X-ray Observatory and type in SIG A, and there's 3C405. And there are the X-ray transients from Cygnus A, which are totally in its regular old everyday baseline state. So again, if you want some merch, if you'd like a massive radio galaxy complete with the radio jets overlapped on a zoomed out portion of the sky there, which really is, that is actually Cygnus A there, in the star field in the background, it's teespring.com/stores/smAsho store, or you can link to it from smAshomash.org. And here ends another episode of the Smashlights. Thanks again for tuning in, whether you viewed live or you viewed Memorex. We greatly appreciate your support and your patronage. And right now it's 4:20 in the new valley of the Dicks. Eyes open, some fear, because having no fear is utterly irrational, just like Ben Davidson. Next, looking at the 1-year relativistic electron flux graph, we see we've leveled out here a little bit at levels not seen since February. Here's the 3-day electron flux graph. And let me just make sure the stream is still going strong. It looks good to me. And let's get through the end portion of the data here. It's the end times, folks. Oh my God. No, not the end times of existing. It's the end times of the video. And here we see a little bit higher than forecasted electron flux values. Here's a visualization of the entire error column, which will give you an idea of where your GPS errors might happen. We'd call it the total electron content. It's the entire error column, all the way from the thermosphere down to where your receiver's located. Here's just one layer. It's the ionosphere, and it's looking fairly normal here, actually. No big deal there. Let's bring up the latest frame. The latest frame is at 8:45 Universal Time, looking quite normal. Here's where stuff is in the solar system. Again, you can see how Mercury is going around the backside of the sun there. Not a big surprise as far as that goes. Here's where stuff will be in a week. One day before the next new moon, my favorite phase, where sleeping is at a premium. And if you're up before dawn, you may see Venus, the third brightest object in the sky at magnitude -4.3. You might also see Mars and the moon up there. Largest quake of the past 24 was a 5.7 at Honduras. Let's scroll up the list. We don't really see any deep quakes yet. No particularly large quakes, no particularly deep quakes. There's a small deep quake in Mainland, Alaska. And here's a deep quake at a 4.5 magnitude at Western South America, that one in Argentina. One of the prime locations for deep quakes is Western South America. Next, volcano discovery here, looking at today's volcanoes, which still include Nishinoshima. Uptick there as it's producing a 13,000 foot tall ash plume. Sangay also exploding. Flight level 210, or 21,000 feet of altitude there. Revenador exploding. 15,000 foot plume there. Sabancaya exploding, flight level 240, as it's producing a 24,000 foot above sea level altitude plume of ash. Please don't pole vault the caldera. We see a lot of red flag warnings here in the northwest, as well as some flash flood warnings in southern California and Arizona. That's weather.gov, by the way. Next, we're going to look at the pressure cells here on windy.com. And the Brian Stelter anticyclone down here is looking pretty beefy. Kind of like Brian Stelter's fat head. And I don't know why he was in the news yesterday. I guess he said something about Limbaugh or something. I don't know, but whatever it was, for some reason, I just have my hand on the pulse of things. Is it psychic powers? Is it divine providence? Is it live? Or is it Memorex? Here's where we expect pressure cells to be at 1 o'clock tomorrow, my time. And that is the GFS forecast. It's windy.com. They've got a great mobile app. Next, looking at nullschool.net and seeing air blowing east to west over the equator, over the eastern world, as well as severely broken up jet streams here over the south. You'll probably hear stories now about how OMG, Antarctica's melting because warm air is being injected southward. Major bends there in the jet stream in southeastern Australia. Here's the western world's jet streams. Extreme meridional jet stream flow at its finest. Very small portions of coherent jet stream only. Lightningmaps.org is where I go when I hear thunder. You could also go to blitzortung.org. And we see some terrestrial lightning here. Hey, Lubbock, there's thunder rolling in. If you're in Lubbock, go out and look to the northeast. You may see sprites. It's still dark. It's a very concentrated lightning storm. How do I know? Real-time lightning maps at lightningmaps.org. Next, looking at the water vapor maps for Africa and for Europe. powerful low pressure system there south of South Africa. And shout out to our South African viewers. People like Marcus Begamon. Water vapor maps for the Far East and Oceania. There you have those. How about water vapor maps for the Americas? We've got some strong cold air pushing down here from Canada. I can see it already just on this map. It could create some extreme compression and some strong storms. And right now the main strong storms are just moving off over Lake Huron into Canada. We also see some scattered thunderstorms there over Kentucky and Tennessee, as well as stronger ones over northern Texas in the Stovepipe and over Oklahoma. Here's what's going on in the cloud layer. And here's the U.S. water vapor map. And we'll zoom in on Oklahoma, as it is the site that we showed the lightning striking. So this will give you some idea of the way these things are going to move, folks. When in doubt, when you look at the Doppler and it doesn't tell you what you want to know about the weather, find yourself a water vapor map. I like to use the NASA GOES Interactive Suite, NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellites. Water vapor map is quite good. The resolution is 2 kilometers on this, so if you see anything on here and you think it's a chemtrail, you don't know what the hell you are talking about. If you think a plane is making a 2-kilometer wide contrail, take a physics class. By the way, if you're flying a plane across this area, expect extreme turbulence because of the dry mass of air surrounding this compression of moisture air. And hey, Smash team, have you bought yourself a smAsho shirt yet? Well, they're available. And I'm wearing a Smash shirt, and now I'm going to vanish. What the heck happened? The flame has gone out, folks. Please support the channel and prevent the flame from going out. All right, there we go. Thanks again, Smash team. Please leave a comment. Please share with your friends and your foes. Please tell your science noobs and your science pros. Thanks for flying, American Smashways. Please keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane at all times, as we have bonus features. Oh yeah, that's right, bonus features, folks. We're showing you the 94 angstroms 48-hour SDO video, as well as the intensitygram to show you the state of affairs with the current sunspot, as well as the colorized magnetogram. Here's the colorized magnetogram, and we see sunspot 2770 has indeed shrunk. The main umbra has split into 2, and I think the trailing umbrae have evaporated entirely. Here's the intensitygram, and this was just updated. I think I still see a trailing opposite polarity umbra there, which means it may retain its beta class designation throughout the day. Here's a 48-hour video from the SDO. It's 94 angstroms. See that active region rising in the southeast? That's the area I'll be keeping an eye on. But also the stereo A coronagraph, as there is a coronal mass ejection on its way to be ejected. Let's just say it's not on its way here yet, and the initial ejecta does appear to have been sent on a trajectory missing to the west. In any case, thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Please support the channel via the links below the videos. Since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that covidiousy absent from your multiverse. Oh hi, you've caught me ending the live stream. Talk to you later in a stilted fashion.